Inevitably, it feels like all of us reach a point where you are at a crossroads and you don't know what to do, and it causes you a lot of anxiety. How do you deal with that? Well, instead of running around and saying, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, try meditating. Anxiety is just a fancy word for emotional constipation. When you're confident, when you're calm, when you're feeling good, your communication skills are better. I have this end goal, but I'm not getting to it any faster by sitting here in this space of in-between indecision. That ability for you to be present in any situation is what creates confidence. If you have an intuitive lead to do something, do it. And don't share it with people. Only share it afterwards. The more you quiet your mind, the more you meditate, the more you do breathwork exercises, the less stressed you feel overall. Hello and welcome to this week's CATAMANIA episode. I decided, since you guys really love the subjects of wellness and mindset and everything that's related to it, to sit down and talk a little bit about confidence, staying calm in situations where maybe your first reaction is to get super anxious, and going for it, aka going for things that you want. As per pretty much usual, I have my lovely Jana sitting across from me, who's here for moral support, because it's actually very difficult to do solo-sodes for me. And I've mentioned this on numerous occasions. Staring at a camera and having no feedback is not the easiest thing. So having someone who's there to help, I don't know, with the energy exchange, smile when you say good things and give you the finger wagging when you say stupid shit is really helpful. Because talking to people comes naturally to me, I would say, but talking to myself doesn't. It's probably a good thing. Is it good when you're not talking to yourself all the time? Probably. I would presume that when you're constantly talking to yourself, you could be a little bit, you know, you could probably, get that checked out. But anyways, okay. So I want to talk to you guys about, I even made notes, which I rarely do. I very rarely do that. I did that for my last solo-sode, and I couldn't believe how helpful it was to just like organize my thoughts so that I don't keep mumbling to you. I want to talk to you guys about that in-between state where you know you want more, but your nervous system is completely fried. And the reason why it's likely fried is because you don't know which direction to take yourself into or your business in. And usually it happens when, let's say you have an idea and you want to implement it, but you're not 100% sure if that's the right idea, if there's maybe something else that's on your mind, kind of like broadly speaking. Maybe you are working a job that you know is not for you and you want something new and you have a calling to embark on a journey of a different path, but you are safe in your job, right? You don't want to quit your job and you know you want to make that move, but at the same time, you're too tired. So you're in this in-between space of indecision. And I actually think that most of the time, that's what causes anxiety. And because, when you know you need to make a decision, but you can't make a decision, that is what's causing anxiety. I recently myself had a situation where I was very conflicted, and transparently, I will be transparent with you guys and tell you exactly what was happening, but I wasn't sure where to take my social media presence and my business, into which direction, and specifically as it relates to the content, because as many of you know, I'm fairly opinionated about certain things. Jana's like literally nodding her head. She's like, yeah, I bet you are. But, I kept being in this conflict state where I knew that maybe there's a part of me that wants to keep commenting on certain like social things or like global things. But I also know that the most fun that I have with social media and with my content is when I do lighthearted comedy that creates, um, you know, creates more of like a fun vibe rather than a divisive vibe. But I also want to share my thoughts and opinions on certain things. So I was in this space of like, okay, either I go full into commenting humorously or in whichever way you want to, I would do it in that case, onto commenting on these like events or things that happen, or I go fully into this direction because being in between is very difficult. And that's where I found myself in. And Jana, who's helps me a lot with this stuff, could feel it because anytime I would want to post something, like she could feel this like level of almost lack of presence and indecision because it translated into even the energy that I would put out into my content. So, whenever you have this indecision or this in between state, it messes with you and it creates a lot of anxiety. And you have an inability to decide which path to take in that moment, even though you always have that ability. But to yourself, you feel like, oh my God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do, which creates so much frustration, so much anxiety, and so much negativity in your life. It also goes into a conflict with the life that you want to live. So deep down, you know that like this, for example, your goal in life is to, I don't know, have a certain type of house in a certain type of location. And you know that in order for you to get there, you probably need to make some changes in your career right now because your current position or your current state in your career that you're in is not going to get you there. So you have an end goal in your mind, but what you are experiencing right now with this indecision and not knowing where to take yourself is like almost in conflict with the end goal because you're like, well, I have this end goal, but I'm not getting to it any faster by sitting here in this space of in between indecision. So that gets frustrating as well because you're like, well, wait a minute. I know where I need to go, but I have no idea how to get there because I don't know if I should quit my job, if I should pursue my business. And oh my God, the bills are, need to be paid and I have security with my job. And, that state, I'm sure we've all been there. So what do you do? I'm going to share with you what I did. The last round of that. So I've had a couple of waves of these moments in my life. The first one was during my corporate days when I was like, I don't know if I necessarily should continue forever on this career path. And then the second one was, as I mentioned just a few months ago, when I was trying to decide which way to take my business that continuously needs to evolve, continuously needs to, changes need to be made, new content needs to be put out, new series need to come out. I need to keep building, but I don't know which way I need to build, right? So that was, I would say 3 months ago, I kind of hit a wall. And right around that time, I have rediscovered the power of something that I have known for a long time. I've experienced it before, but I have kind of let it, I guess, let it slip away because I was like, well, I've done it so many times, I don't need to do it anymore. And that is meditation. Now, I've talked to you guys on numerous occasions about my journey in meditation and breath work in the last 3 months or so now, 2.5 to 3 months, I would say. And the phenomenal changes that I have seen, and specifically how much it's helped me with, prayer answering, because meditation in a way is, you could interpret it as prayer. Sometimes you just shut your not thought patterns, but all of your thoughts down and you mute it all so that you can be present and focused. That's all it is. It's concentrating on something, right? But in a way, it helped a lot of my prayers get answered because I've become present. I've become more clear-headed. And then also being in that state, quieting my mind has allowed me to stop with the self-sabotage. Not completely, because if you're growing in life, you inevitably are going to subconsciously self-sabotage, but it really helps with that. So this is my personal advice, I guess, and what has helped me is finding these moments where I can quiet my mind, get very present, and get clarity. So when I had this situation of not knowing where to take my business, I was like, oh my God, what do I do? What do I do? I don't know what to do. I don't know if I should do this or do that. Like we've all had those moments. And instead of keep running the same anxious thoughts in my head, I just sat down and listened to, on a daily basis, because that's your discipline, 10 to 15 minutes of guided meditations. And in the first, I think, week, Jana's been there since the beginning. In the first week, I've seen results right away. And I've mentioned them to you guys before. I've shared it with you. I was able to, I'm convinced, like you guys can call me crazy, but I'm convinced that the apartment that I live in currently was because of that, because of my meditations, because I live in a city where finding accommodation for pretty much any period of time is actually very difficult. There's a very high demand. And the places that you do find end up being like, ugh, you know? The apartment pulled through in the last possible second and we were able to move in. And I remember when things weren't looking very good, typically your default is to be like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. How are we going to make this happen? This apartment literally last possible second came through. And it came through because in that space between, okay, well, where are we going to live? What are we going to do? And securing the apartment, I just said to myself, whatever happens, happens. I'm going to go meditate, quiet my mind, do a little prayer, and then everything is going to fall into place. I don't know how, I don't know when, but it'll happen at the right possible time or at the best possible time. And it happened at literally the last possible second that it could have happened because we needed to move here by March 15th. I think by March 12th is when we signed the lease. It's crazy. So I'm convinced that that's what got me into it. And I want to focus a little bit more with you guys because I know that some of you have tried meditation in the past. In fact, some of you have already, shared your experiences with it and how much it's helped you just in overall well-being and your life. But I want to zone in on this and share with you my experience a little bit further and specifically like what I'm using, what techniques I've been enjoying in the last little while, and how it translates to the next point that I want to bring up here. Subjects today for the discussion is confidence, calm, and going for it. Inevitably, it feels like all of us reach a point where you are at a crossroads and you don't know what to do and it causes you a lot of anxiety. How do you deal with that? Well, instead of running around and saying, I don't know what to do, I don't know what to do, try meditating, try quieting your mind and finding the answer from as wooey as it might sound to you from within. That's what's worked for me. And that's what I recommend to everybody because it's the best. In regards to meditation, there's obviously, various different ways you could do it. I personally have been using an app that I have been raving about to you guys before called Open App. It's phenomenal from every area that you look at it. The design of it is amazing. I love dark colors in the app itself. If you check it out, like it's got just the most beautiful color patterns. It's also got some phenomenal programs. So the program that I started doing when I prayed for my apartment was called Become Magnetic. So it was all about the concept of needing nothing attracts everything. When you relax, when you let go, when you trust, that's when things come to you. And when you are stressing out, when you're running around, screaming that you don't know what to do, that's when things seem to constantly be running away from you. And I've experienced that myself. So Become Magnetic was the program that I was doing. I think it's like 10 tracks. That's the program that I did when I manifested. The apartment is just one example, by the way. Things have been just like, it seemed like things were falling into place. So much so that I saved 2 of my favorite tracks from Become Magnetic Challenge, and I do them every day. It's addicting. So Become Magnetic was the course that I completed that I absolutely loved. And then after Become Magnetic Challenge, there was another course that came out through Open called Emotional Intelligence. And that was right around the time that my father passed away. And you know me, I'm like, I'm not feeling any of my emotions. I'm just going to like put them all down and keep working and keep ignoring everything, which is not a good approach. So Emotional Intelligence Challenge teaches you resilience while still feeling your emotions, but not getting too like overly attached with them. So it basically lets you or teaches you how to be with your emotions because we all have them. It's not all positive emotions all the time, and it's not all negative emotions all the time. It teaches you how to feel them without overly identifying with them because I find that a lot of times people have struggles with that. Like people have struggles with, oh, I'm angry or I'm sad. And it like almost becomes all consuming. Your emotion becomes such a huge part of you in that moment. So the emotional intelligence challenge teaches you how to go deep while still remaining resilient to anything that life throws at you. It's been phenomenal. And aside from that, I mean, every meditation that I have done, there's sound meditations. So you can do meditations that have sounds that really like put you in a whole other, I don't know, stratosphere, especially if it's like maybe a little bit noisy around you. The sound of each meditation is very deep. So when you put your headphones on, which is really all that you need, you feel like you're almost immersed in some kind of experience because you're almost like isolated from everything else while you're doing it. And then they also have guided breath works and guided meditations without sound. So whatever you prefer, they have. And I don't know about you guys, but I personally have found that for me, I can't do unguided meditations. And I guess I've heard that this is like actually a common thing for women because apparently men can not think about anything just like on their own without any guidance, like without having to put themselves into that mindset. Whereas women, we tend to like run a lot of thoughts throughout the day. So sometimes I'll be asking even like my husband, like, oh, what are you thinking about? He'll be like, nothing. And I'm like, nothing. I thought about like 100 things in the last minute, right? So I can't do meditations that are unguided. I can't just sit down and force myself not to think about anything, which is, you're not supposed to force yourself anyhow, but I cannot do unguided meditations. I have to do guided ones. And I've done every YouTube guided meditation you could possibly think of. I've done, so many of them that I could just find online. Just the sound quality, you cannot compare with what Open has. Open takes you to almost like a whole other realm when you're doing it, when you're doing those meditations that really make you concentrate, which is meditation is all about concentration. So in case you haven't yet gotten tired of me of raving about this, you guys can try Open. We'll put this in the caption of the episode, but it's with Open, so withhopen.com/catamania. So the name of the podcast. And we'll put this in the caption so you guys can click on it, and we'll put the code as well so that you can sign up. Because I think there's an underrated level of power, if you haven't done it, in being completely and totally present and also quieting that noise that you keep in your mind that's just there, that's just present all the time. And we underestimate just how detrimental it can be when we need to be making decisions to have that noise with you, because at that point, like me personally, I think you're not even acting sometimes the way you're supposed to be acting, and the decisions that you're making maybe aren't the right decisions because you don't hear that inner voice. You don't hear your intuition when you're in this constant state of anxiety. So, great way to put yourself in a state of presence and help you make decisions, help you make the right decisions, not just any decisions, is to quiet your mind, get very present, and hear the messages that you're meant to hear, not like your mind and fearful way. Which ties me to the next point. So I made a note about confidence. And you guys know there's an ebook that I have about confidence. It's a subject that I feel like people talk about a lot, but there's so many ways you can approach it. And everyone has a different way of like, well, how do you become more confident? I think that when we think about confidence, we sometimes think of it being like loud and extroverted, but really it's about like feeling safe in your own body and feeling at peace with the fact that you will make the right decision for yourself and you're perfectly adequate for any situation. That's kind of what it is for me lately. And that ability for you to be present in any situation is what creates confidence. And again, presence, to go back to meditation and breath work, that's pretty much all it's about. It's about presence. It's about taking a moment to fully be present and not think about what you have to do in the future or how you're going to do it, worrying about it. And when you're worrying about it, do you really have confidence? No. So the more you can get present, the more you can align yourself with the present moment, the more you cultivate that feeling of total confidence and relaxation and peace. Because when you think about confidence, I don't know about you, but what comes to my mind is like total calmness and tranquility. And you can be calm and tranquil if you are constantly thinking about, oh, what am I going to do? How am I going to do it? I don't know what to do. I don't know how I'm going to get there, you know? So the more present you can get, the more confident you'll be. As simple as that. That was a recent development too, because I've noticed that the whole realm of meditation and breath work is not just about like, taking a break from your day, which is initially, I remember like a few years ago when I first got like familiar with the term meditation and breath work, I was like, well, it's just about like taking a break from your day, but not going to sleep. And it's like, no, that's not at all what it is. Otherwise you would just take a nap, right? It's not at all about that. It's about cultivating certain feelings of safety, of confidence, ability to regulate your emotions, ability to eliminate anxiety, and then even improving your communication skills as a result. Because again, when you're confident, when you're calm, when you're feeling good, your communication skills are better. I don't know if you guys noticed this, by the way, but when I feel confident, at peace, I communicate better. And I even notice that, ladies, I'm curious to actually know this. If I feel confident and good about myself, I will look better in the pictures. Even if I'm not wearing makeup, like there'll be days when I'm not wearing makeup, but I feel really good. And I'll take a picture and I'll be like, oh, wow, I actually look good in this photo. And then when I don't feel confident, when I don't feel that sense of like tranquility and like, I got everything, I got this, um, I don't look good in photos. And it's annoying. Then you have to put a filter, which is not the best thing. Just saying. Jana over here never uses filters, by the way. We should take her example. I use a filter when the camera is like this close. It's not about lack of confidence per se. It's just about smoothing your face because you're like right there, right? When you're talking to the camera. So that's what I've learned in the last 2 months. I think anything you embark on, right? Anything that you bring into your life, in the beginning, you think it's like about this, but like this much of depth in it. And then as you do more and more of it, you discover there's so many more layers to it. So I think for me, with all of this space of indecision making and inability to go for it and an ability to just choose a path that I want to embark on, and then discovering what helped me the most being meditation and breath work, getting so into it. Then I discovered, I was like, wow, this is how you actually cultivate confidence. This is how you improve your communication skills. This is how you know how to respond to your emotions that show up in everyone, right? It's so much more than just taking a break from your day and taking a mini nap. And of course, when you're anxious, you can't feel confident. When you're anxious, you can't make the right decision. You just can't. I actually made a note. I'm very proud of this phrase over here. Anxiety is just a fancy word for emotional constipation. I know. I know. You're welcome. You can note that. Yeah, but it is because when you're anxious, you're feeling stuck. And then when you feel stuck and you can't make a move, or you feel like you can't make a move, it breeds even more anxiety in your head, right? So it's just not a good place to be. And people are going to be like, well, how do you cure anxiety? I don't know. Like I have controversial thoughts on what anxiety is, maybe like in the West, I feel like it's a little bit more controversial to think of anxiety the way I do, but start by quieting your mind. Because if you have a million thoughts running around and you're worried, that's not a good place to be. So try every avenue you can, but I would definitely recommend starting with quieting your mind, doing a meditation. And by the way, it has a cumulative effect as well. The more you quiet your mind, the more you meditate, the more you do breath work exercises, the less stressed you feel overall. And then on the contrary, once you stop doing it, once you're like, I've had that before. I'm like, I'm too good for this. I've meditated my way to my apartment or whatever. I'm not going to do it anymore because I'm good. And then, a couple of weeks go by and I'm like, I should probably quiet that noise of mine. So, it's all on you, right? Nobody's going to magically come and make that decision for you and tell you which path you should follow. You need to figure that out. And the only way you can figure it out, I'm going to say this one more time. I've said this like 15 times on this episode, is by quieting your mind and going for it, which ties me to my last point of this episode, because I've been mumbling for too long. And I feel like you guys need to get on with your day at this point, after, of course, making all the notes that you could make from this episode on how to finally go for it. Very often, when you want to do something, it's not going to make sense to everybody. In fact, it probably won't make sense to most people around you. And may I recommend that you don't share with anybody unless you know for a fact that the person who is sitting next to you with whom you want to share your your decision-making process or your desires or what you want from life, unless you know for a fact that that person is going to support you and help you achieve that and help you figure out a way to get there, don't share it. Because when you are trying to do something that's outside of the norm, or something that is a little bit risky or a little bit scary, people will subconsciously, through no fault of their own, and maybe even without intending, to do so. Whoa, I'm like hitting the microphone. They will try to pull you down, and they will try to almost like prevent you from doing it. Again, sometimes they don't even mean to do it, but they just project their own fears onto you. They project their own limitations onto you. And when you are in this space of trying to make a decision that is so fresh, like that desire is so fresh in you, it will affect it. Like, it will affect your result unless you're so strong that you really don't care, and unless you're so convicted in the idea that that is exactly what you need to be doing, which, let's get real, most of us aren't when we're trying something new or when we want to make a decision to pivot into a certain direction. If you are not strong enough to be like, I'm blocking this out, it will affect you. It will affect how you proceed. It will affect your decision making, because you'll inevitably start questioning yourself and thinking, oh, maybe this is in fact a, not such a good idea. Maybe I should stay in my current job. Maybe this piece of content that I want to put out is not that good after all. If you have an intuitive lead to do something, do it, and don't share it with people. Only share it afterwards, or when you're already confident enough in the fact that things are progressing. Don't share it. Okay? Or share it with people who you know are going to support you. I think that's all I got for my notes, actually. You know what I wrote here is, you can be self-aware and still make messy moves. Because you know what? Okay, this is the last point that I wanted to make. I feel like there's so many things coming to me as I'm speaking, and I'm like, I should stick to this is what I need to make notes for myself. So as I've realized this, you guys, because if I don't, it's just scatterbrain everywhere. What I've realized is that we think very often that when we are faced with a decision that we need to make to like change our life or pivot or whatever it is, we really think that we need to have it all figured out. And that unless you make the perfect move right off the bat, everything is going to fall apart. And I swear, every person I've talked to who has achieved great success in life, they all say that like some of the decisions that they've made were straight up wrong. They shouldn't have probably made that decision. But they did, because it's better to make the wrong decision than to not make any decisions at all. Wow. That should be the quote for this episode. It is, because you can always make another decision. Yes, you can make mistakes, and you probably will. I make so many mistakes, but it's better to do it and then figure out a way to clean up the mess after and make the right decision moving forward than to sit in this constant space of not knowing where to go. And also, the more you are in tune with yourself, the more you have those quiet moments, the more you do meditation and breathwork exercises, the more aligned you feel with yourself, the less messy moves you make. You still make them, don't get me wrong, because you still get in your own head, you still get in your own way, but you make less of them, because you respond rather than reacting to situations, and you actually allow yourself to take some time before making a decision. So I hope that helps. And I hope that if there was, anything that you could have extracted from this episode, it would have been some nudge and motivation to take the right steps that you need to take to quiet your mind, listen to exactly what you need to do, and do it. Thank you very much for tuning into this episode, and I will see y'all next week.